Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. We are very excited to have you with us. We're talking about the current events. We're talking about mental health. And so I'm just so excited, and we're just going to talk about it.
Have you personally experienced racism or discrimination?
For me, it's been many a times I've been at tables where a white colleague and a black colleague, male, who were having conversation. I asked a question, literally no response to my question. They looked at me as if I was stupid and continued the conversation. And I had to say, okay, in this moment, how am I going to handle this? Right? Am I going to be that one? Because you're always thinking like, I'm going to be perceived as that B, right? Or I'm going to be perceived as that angry black woman. But I had to say, look, I asked a question and said in a way that they understood that it wasn't about me being aggressive. To your point, Kiara, it's that I'm a human and you should respect the fact that I'm at the table with you, right? And so I think for black people, especially women sometimes, and that's a whole nother conversation. There are just so many narratives that are going on in our head. We're always monitoring ourselves and it gets exhausting.
Mm-hmm. I've had that same experience. I had to take 2 classes with the same professor, and time I would say anything or speak in the class, I would be just automatically shut down. And I had to think, was it sexism? Was it racism?
Right.
And I mean, some people told me he was just elitist, and that's a whole another thing. But in that situation, you have to first think, well, should I monitor myself in this situation or should I stick up for myself? And because I was getting a grade, I chose to just step back, but it then took a toll on my education because then there are questions that I want to ask that I can't ask, and I'm not getting essentially what I'm paying for because I feel like I'm being shut down in this setting. So it's a situation where you have to constantly think about, where do I want to place myself and what battle do I want to fight? And
good point.
It's terrible.
I think intersectionality as Black women is just hard in general. Like, okay, you're Black, you're already at a disadvantage, but you also have to be like, okay, I'm Black, but then I'm a woman, which brings me lower than that. And it's like having to deal with, kind of like how you said, Kiara, like when you're trying to see something sexist or if it's racist, like we have to deal with both. Like it's 2 different struggles that we're struggling with. And I've been reading All About Love by Bell Hooks. And she kind of talks about like, as women, like we're never taught to like handle all the things that we go through with racism and sexism. We're kind of just told like, okay, well, you just go out in the world and you have kids and you teach men how to respect you and things like that. But it's like, nobody ever like helps us and teaches us to how to like grow from that trauma that we go through. And I think intersectionality is important when we talk about Breonna Taylor, which I'm sure we'll get to, but like the fact that she still doesn't have justice and that we kind of like shove her under the rug. And it's the Black women and Black trans, I guess, that are really trying to, you know, promote her injustice and get justice sought out for her. But it's like, it's kind of really sad that, okay, we got justice for George Floyd, but Breonna Taylor's, you know, murderers are still out. Nobody's really making much noise about it still, but it's like, just because she's a woman doesn't mean her life is less than. And I know nobody intentionally thinks of that, but it's like women are always the afterthought and that men are always thought first.
You put all this mental strain on women, but you don't ever like check up on women like, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? Are this, do you need this, that, and the third? You know, we always do that to the men in the community, and that's very true. And for the point that was just brought up with Breonna Taylor, it's like justice for Floyd was so big, like extremely huge, as huge as I've ever seen personally. And Breonna Taylor is like, everything's died down a little bit. And I was wondering too, what is the cause? Like, what's things, are they people getting tired of protesting? Is things dying down? Is there a lot of violence going on? And it's just like, what took away from Breonna Taylor so bad? I still see people post every morning, like, it's a great day to arrest people who killed Breonna Taylor. And there's barely any progress being made. And the fact that, and when we talk about Breonna Taylor, the fact that people bring up, oh, we'll change streets to Black Lives Matter, we'll paint it on the floor, we'll take some stuff out of brand names. It's like, wow, you're doing everything but bringing justice to a woman. So imagine, like, to your point, it's just like when you look at it at a bigger picture, it's like, wow, you'll really beat around the bush all day long before you do something for somebody who's a Black woman.